Hello there, it's your boy OfficiallyDevin and I am bringing you an abridged commentary of the Life of Genghis Khan campaign for Oriental Empires. If you haven't seen this game before, it is a game where it's basically like Civilization but with more focus on military stuff. And if you haven't seen an abridged commentary before, I'm going to be bringing you only the most important parts of the campaign, which will probably be only a very small number of parts based on my previous experience playing Oriental Empires. So yes, we are going to be the Mongols. This is a sort of story campaign where we need to go destroy / conquer the world, etc. But we begin in the very beginning by the looks of things. We've got a little bit of a story sequence where there was once some guy descended from some sort of cross-species breeding. That guy stole somebody's wife, and then that wife gave birth to a kid named Temujin, and this is Genghis Khan's actual name. So this is the guy we're going to be playing as. So what we need to do is, before the game kind of starts properly and we start engaging with the mechanics, there's just a sequence where you wander around as Temujin, doing a few bits and bobs and collecting a couple of the story characters that we'll see as we go along. So first we need to not die out in the wilderness, so we're just going to walk off to go find some deer. Over there we team up with a guy named Jemuka, who we become sworn brothers with, and it mentions he's going to be a great ally, quote unquote, in the future. If anyone happens to know the story of Genghis Khan, then you know where that's going. Later on, we've got a real brother, a half-brother actually, who's older than us, so we have to kill him for some reason. And it also mentions here we're going to get the exciting prospect of sleeping with our own mother or something. Not quite sure what it said there, but doesn't matter. And also, we're stronger together. That's going to be the theme of Genghis Khan's campaign, of course. And at this point, Temujin spawns as an actual unit. We're not just a group of nomads. We've got a military unit on the field, and we've just gone off to the east in order to grab ourselves a wife. We had some deal with another tribe. So now we have a wife, we can start our family, but when we got the wife, we also got given a particularly interesting jacket, and that becomes the star of the show. We need to give that jacket to our uncle or something, because he is a very powerful man. So we go off and give him the jacket. And he is actually the leader of another faction in the game, another full tribe. So by having him like us, we now start the game with an ally, and this is where the game really starts, as it mentions here. We get our first settlement, you can see it in the top left, and we can begin doing normal stuff, but there will be story objectives that keep coming up, so that will direct what we're going to do in this campaign. These two settlements to our west and south are the ones we are now allied to, so we don't need to worry about them. We can also see two other tribes, the Tartars and something else. They're both neutral to us technically, but they have a hostile attitude. And going into the diplomacy menu, we're actually not allowed to talk to most of these tribes. And the reason is, because they're going to be involved in story events, you can't set up any deals with them until the events have happened. So basically we're going to be forced to go to war with all the various tribes at some point, and until you've been forced to do it, the game doesn't let you do anything otherwise. So we just start playing the game, and one thing you need to do in the game is upgrade your settlements. Just like in Civ, you build farms and roads and buildings around them to make them more productive. However, with the Mongols, we don't know about farming. We haven't invented agriculture. You can invent it, it's in the tech tree, so I'll probably get that at some point. But it just means that for now we don't really have that much to do in terms of managing our territory. Here you can see we have the option to create nomadic hordes. This is similar to creating settlements, but they can move around. So it's like a settlement that can move and build things while moving around, and at the end of each turn it sort of settles down and becomes a little town. Hard to explain, but we will see an example of that later on. We can also just make settlers like in the base game or like in Civ to go and make other towns. There's some bad news soon though. Our wife has been stolen by another tribe. And this gives us our first main mission. We have to go and take revenge on the Merkits, who are to our north/northwest, and there's a time limit on this as well. So this is the settlement we need to take. It's up to our northwest, and there are a couple of other armies just outside. Those armies are also hostile to the Merkits. So what you're supposed to do is go over and get the other guys to help you attack the town and take it. Temujin is currently wandering about in the east, and we get one of the encounters where you can have random chances to spend money and get things. In this case, we get a couple of military units, so this is handy. We could use those guys to rush over and actually start this mission. The only problem is the time limit's quite strict. We've got something like 10 turns to do this, and checking the movement I was like, it's going to take pretty much all of that time just to get there, let alone actually do the attack. So I'm not going to send Temujin on this mission. I'm going to raise an army at our settlement and send that instead, since it's much closer. The sorts of units we'll be using are basically horse archers, as you might expect, and we also have access to some real trash infantry, and later on we'll get access to better stuff, of course. When it comes to the trash infantry, while I did recruit some, I then immediately disbanded them because I realised it slows your army down to have infantry in it. Going cav only means you can move fast, and with the extremely strict time limit we do need to move fast. Here's our second settlement going up, in a particularly good place actually. You can see there are 2 deer herds nearby, and because we can't farm, we can't really gain population in the way that you normally do in this game. So relying on those deers will allow that second town to become actually quite big compared to all the other little nomad camps we're going to have around the place, which are going to be very limited in their population and usefulness until later on. Now we're going to look at some combat, because it's time for us to go up against this settlement. We've only got a couple of turns to get in there, but that may be all we need. So with siege battles and walled settlements in this game, you can't attack them until you've made a breach in the wall, and only certain units can make breaches. One of those units is foot archers, and luckily our allies have some foot archers because our mounted archers are unable to attack the wall. Or are they? We'll see in a second. There is a little twist to this. Right now they're currently just shooting arrows into the settlement, and by the troop count at the top we can tell that this isn't doing anything, so that's not very helpful. Also, the other group, which are probably supposed to help you, are not fighting right now. We need to get closer to them to draw them into the fight so they'll help. At least the one group we did get has foot archers, and they are now able to shoot fire arrows at the wall, so there's potential here to get a breach. The only issue is there's a time limit to these engagements, and we didn't get the breach in time. So nothing happened eventually. Well, actually, we lost out in the siege really, because some of our men used all of their campaign stamina shooting arrows into the settlement without doing anything. That stamina takes an extremely long time to come back and gives you a big combat debuff, so overall that sucks. What I thought we could try though is to split our force up and attack from 2 directions so that the other allied force is more involved in the fight and will be drawn in. I'm going to use just my general for that. Any unit being there should be enough to get the effect. And here we go with another attempt at the attack. But things are quite different this time, because for some reason our guys have all now dismounted and can attack using fire arrows, which is especially unusual because we haven't even unlocked the technology for fire arrows yet. I'm still researching it at the moment as far as I can remember. Maybe we just about got it in this turn and that's why this happened, but we'll see in the future. There's some rule that determines whether your cavalry will dismount for a settlement assault. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and at the time of recording I still don't know what it is. This was a good turn though. This was a good time to be attacking because now we have loads of foot archers instead, and we can easily take out the enemy's walls and towers. The downside is that now we've done that, we have to actually try and attack the town, and that's going to be difficult for us. Our allies have some guys who haven't dismounted, and they, right here, are wandering up to investigate the possibility of attacking. The enemy have trash spears on the inside, but those trash spears, if they're good against anything, is probably horse archers stuck in melee, so our allies are going to have a very bad time there and actually just get themselves killed trying to go through. And then our own troops end up trying to get in as well, and they're just dismounted horse archers, very unpowerful, and our units are routing all over the place. It's not looking good. However, the enemy's siege defences don't fully regenerate after each turn. So we have made progress there. We've got some of the towers down and the gates open, meaning if we attack again, we'll be able to start the fighting right away and even get more breaches going. All of our troops were routed, so now they're really far away, which is annoying, but because they're all cav, they can come right back into the fight at the end of this turn. And we're going to benefit here from a technicality in the game. When you're attacking a city, if there are more breaches than there are defending units, you automatically win. So while we basically got wiped out trying to go through the breaches, somewhere enough fire arrows opened up another breach and we suddenly just took the settlement like that. So there we go, we ended up successfully taking the place. And this means we have successfully completed the mission as well, and got Temujin's wife back, who also comes quite pregnant with a kid that may or may not be his, but we're just not going to question that for now. So there we go. We are still at war though with the Merkit tribe, the guys who owned that settlement, and you can see they've got another one over there, so we've got something to pay attention to. I was originally planning to go after them, however, another mission comes up right after this. It's Jamukha, the guy who was our sworn brother and was going to be our best ally, has abandoned us right away. So Jamukha is actually the leader of the tribe that supplied the second of the two armies helping us out in that last battle. So he did do something for us, but now he's been a very bad sworn brother and has betrayed us. Our original ally is going to join us in a war against Jamukha's faction, the Jeddah Mongols. So now, that's the next thing we have to do in the story, go and take these guys down. The only thing stopping me from doing that was not knowing where they were. We don't know where any of their settlements are, so it's a bit of a mystery what's going to happen here. But they do still have units near that place we just took. Plus, the Merkits have a fresh army that's coming towards that settlement as well, so there's going to be some more fighting there to start with. Since the walls are all trashed, they can just come in and attack us right away. The good news is that they only have 4 units against our 4 defenders, so they don't get that technical win right away. They can still be repulsed. Although our men are pretty much the same as theirs, only they've also just fought a battle. That means we're low on stamina and we lost some troops in the fighting as well. At least Jamukha's men appear to be ignoring the fight. They're not going to take part, I guess because they're not allied to the Merkits, they're not allowed or something, not quite sure what the rules on that are. But suffice to say, the enemy army eventually grinds its way through at least one of my units, gets into the settlement, and it falls. And when the settlement falls, everything left inside it just gets deleted, like in Total War. That means we have lost our army, and we've lost the settlement, so that did not go very well. And as a further bonus, we lost a max level general that the game gave us as well. Temujin is also max level, so we've still got one, but yes, that does really suck. Now what's Temujin been up to? Well, over the last million turns, he's actually been walking over here to participate in the war, and he's just arrived. So I'm going to use him to attack the Merkit's other settlement. Since it doesn't have walls, we can just suddenly attack and see what happens. It was at this point in the campaign I realised you don't have to pay money to recruit settlers and make new camps. I thought you did, I guess it's like that in the base game. For whatever reason I thought you had to pay 500 gold to go make a new settlement, so I wasn't bothering. Actually you get it for free, and you just have to wait 16 turns in between doing it from each settlement. So we can start 2 new camps right now. Like in Civ, you need to try and use the various resources around the place to get good camp positions. There's also this mysterious secret trading mechanic in the game that I mastered the last time I played it, so I'm going to be making some decisions based on that to make some extra money as we go forward. In the meantime, let's see how Temujin does with his cheeky raid. We arrive to this unwalled settlement. It's just defended by a couple of trash spear units. Unfortunately, our men have decided that today is a dismounted day, which ruined my theory, which was originally that they're only mounted the first turn of the siege and then they dismount for further attacks. Here they've dismounted for the first attack, so it's not that. That's one thing off the list. However, them being dismounted doesn't really matter. We can run into the town, and we've still got some decent looking armoured units right here, the Warriors Retinue I think they're called, and the enemy just have tribal levy spears. I thought surely we can hack our way through those guys. Also, Temujin, being a max level commander, gives all of our allied troops a combat buff, plus presumably his own unit is quite powerful as well. What we found though is that things did not happen for us. Our warriors got taken down by the enemy's tribal levy. It seemed like both sides were killing each other in about equal numbers, but our side has smaller units and I guess got demoralized quicker, which was very surprising because I did check the numbers and our stats, our combat stats, are way higher than the enemy's. We just somehow couldn't get through, even with Temujin leading. We lost a full unit of our cav. The enemy lost 2 halves of a unit of the tribal levy spears, but overall they're fine, and that battle was a disgraceful start to Temujin's military career. This leaves me disheartened, because now we're stuck out here, we can't really do anything with these units that I spent so long bringing over. That other settlement is now unguarded, by the way, but as it says there, we're not allowed to attack a walled settlement because this army doesn't have any archers. We can't break the walls. So all we can do is spend a whole load of turns walking back, and here we are. By the time Temujin is back home, I've set up 2 more camps, so our empire's a little bit bigger, and I'm just occupying myself, putting roads between these places to help with trade and with moving military units as well. In the next turn, we get news that we have a new mission to go on. The Tartars apparently killed our father at some point in the past, and Temujin has a grudge against them, so our new mission is in something like 15 turns, or by 15 turns, we have to take down their capital, Tartar itself. So now we have to walk in the opposite direction to where we went last time. This is far to our east. Quite far as well, so again it's going to take a number of turns just to get near them, so we do want to get on that right away. We've had a couple more generals spawn while I was just walking around, so we can put a somewhat substantial army together with a load of generals and then recruit a few more units to add on to it. There's another consideration though, and that is the arrival of some of Jamukha's men. You can see this settlement's name has wheels underneath it, and that's representing that it's a nomadic settlement, so the settlement itself can move about a little bit. That's why it wasn't there a second ago. Suddenly there's a massively garrisoned settlement nearby. So they could potentially come down and attack us, but we're going to do a classic OffiD strategy, and that is ignore them and just kind of wing it. So I recruited a load of stuff and sent it towards Tartar to go and make the attack for the mission, and we really just hope that Jamukha's men don't come over and take any of my camps. They're all completely unguarded. We're playing it nice and edgy, as I like to do, to save money basically. And in the meantime, we are still setting up more camps, and gradually, as our nation's population increases, we'll start to make more and more money taxing them and from the little bits of trade you get between the camps. Thought I'd give a little shout out to the technology trees. There are 4 tech trees in the game, and you start with a lot of the techs unlocked actually, because we're supposed to be quite far along the timeline this game's normal mode takes place over. But because we don't have much stuff going on in our little nation, we research techs very slowly, and most of them don't do very much, so I'm probably not going to talk very much about tech. Anyway, it's time for this attack on Tartar, and good news, it's a mounted sort of day, so our guys will attack in their stronger style, and you can see here, it's a lot stronger. The enemy just die instantly when you attack them with mounted cav, although actually it's kind of like a charge bonus, because while you just flatten enemy units, the last like 3 guys in the unit can then defeat your cavalry. So there's some kind of bonus against cav that spears have, and cav have a bonus against infantry if they get to charge. So both sides are going to be killing each other quite a lot in these fights. Here we've got what appears to be an enemy general or faction leader fighting with our horse archers, and he doesn't get crushed in the same way, I guess because his stats are higher. So here we see an example. The last survivors of that tiny spear unit actually beat back my warriors. Not very nice, but we've killed so many of them and we've still got guys uncommitted that we are going to be able to win in the end. In fact, we don't even need that, because one of our units did get through, and once you have guys in the middle of a settlement, it's considered fallen, and the rest of the defenders disappear. So that's that. We have successfully taken Tartar, and the mission will be complete. It's really far away from everything else we have, as you can see, and that's going to inform my decision vis-a-vis what to do with the place. For completing the mission, we get loads of money, and we also get an authority boost on Temujin. I'll talk a tiny bit about authority in a second. It doesn't matter all that much for our purposes now. So here's the decision time. You have to do this with any settlement. Last time I just picked Occupy. And here, sacking is undoubtedly the best option. The only reason I didn't pick it is because I didn't realise that when you sack a settlement, you do actually get to keep the settlement after. I, for some reason, was thinking it was like in Total War, where if you sack a settlement, it goes back to being controlled by whoever controlled it before. It's now just in a wrecked state. So I could get tons of money here for just killing a few people, and the people will come back. But instead, I'm going to go with Occupy, but I wasn't sure whether that was a good idea either. Basically what I'm thinking here is I want to turn Tartar into a nomadic horde rather than being a settlement, so that I can move it back towards my territory. So you saw there I laid down a safety save to experiment with how we can actually do this, and we're going to go with Occupy. Then you have to wait 2 turns before you can give any commands, and then we'll come back to that. We get a thing here saying I've now officially become the tribal leader of our tribe. Temujin wasn't the leader before, but now he's so badass after finally achieving something that he is going to be the leader, boosting his authority. And that authority stat just determines how many settlements you can have. So if you have 30 authority, say, you can have 30 settlements, and it's your faction leader's authority stat plus a base authority stat for your faction. We'll talk about that at some point if it becomes relevant. Right now, you can see that the other Tartar settlement that I bypassed to go for Tartar itself sent out some men to capture one of my undefended camps. So they've called my bluff on actually just attacking me. That's my weakness. They've found out. Temujin's on the way back, so we can deal with that in a second. But first, let's try this nomad thing. You've got a button here, a building really, where you convert your settlement into a horde. So now in 1 turn, Tartar should become a mobile settlement, and we can just put it somewhere good. And it's particularly useful because Tartar has a large population right now, so it's way better than any of our camps, so we can slap down a relatively well-developed settlement in our own territory and in our trade network, expanding our markets for stuff quite a lot. You might have also seen there that I did recon a couple of Jajoran Mongol settler units, so they're trying to set up some camps in this area as well. And you can just go and kill them to stop this from happening, but it's actually harder than you would think because these units rout when you attack them rather than die. And as long as there are a few guys still alive in the unit, they can still go and make a new settlement, so you do have to chase them for multiple turns to actually kill settler units. In the meantime, Temujin is bypassing the Tartar settlement, which is empty, but is defended by stone walls, so we can't bust in there right now. And more importantly, we need to go back and kill their couple of units before they keep heading west and take more of our stuff, so that's the priority there. Now this general that I've got wandering around needs to avoid the enemy general who's wandering around, but otherwise he will keep chasing down the enemy settlers. And back at Tartar, the conversion is complete. The wheels have appeared under the name, so it's time to move. You can see it highlights places that are suitable for settlements. When you move a settlement like this, you have to end each turn somewhere where a settlement could plausibly be, otherwise you take attrition. I think some of the population die, so if you walked over mountains or something with the settlement, your guys would just die off. Here we are taking back our camp from those Tartar raiders. This is a case where the enemy have like 2 or 3 units defending, and we have way more attacking, so we can just win on the technicality. But it doesn't trigger until one of your units touches an undefended breach, so there is a bit of fighting first between the first units to make contact. Here our horse archers go in for a not very good attack, although that guy at the front there does a bit of the old T-posing to assert dominance, and mere seconds later the enemy surrender. So there we go, we've taken our camp back, and also deleted a couple of enemy units. However, the problem won't totally go away until we go and capture the nearby Tartar base as well. Our guy hunting down the enemy civilians has leveled up, so clearly he's learning a lot from the experience, and the enemy capital of Tartar is slowly making its way back into our territory. So yes, I went out to go and attack the nearby enemy settlement. It is stone-walled, but it has no garrison, so they can't really use those walls very much. Stone walls don't completely stop you from attacking a place, because you can still take down gatehouses using fire arrows. Therefore we can make at least a couple of breaches. The towers on the wall shoot you, I think, so we can lose men trying to do this, but it's doable in principle. And we have very good luck because it's a dismounted day when we attack, so we can attack right away. And while the gate's already open by the looks of things, once we've technically set it on fire, we can run inside and capture the town with only minimal casualties. And that's great. Now we have a stone-walled settlement on our border and on the front line with Jamaica, where you can see there's actually a full stack of troops nearby. I was being pretty edgy there by just walking past the enemy's much stronger army to come and attack this place. But my luck's been holding so far. Just assuming the enemy won't attack me is proving to be a good strategy, and we're saving a lot of money because of it. However, I am now going to need to expand my army to go and take on the Jajoran Mongols and Jamaica himself, who is actually right there in the settlement next door. A showdown is nigh once they get ready for it, so I suppose that's what we'll do at the start of the next part. Thank you very much for watching the first part of this series. We're going to be going through the whole campaign, which probably won't be very long. We've already spent like 50 turns in this part, and it can only go up to 300 turns. So yes, this will be a short series, and there'll probably be lots of periods where I just sit there doing nothing that I'll cut out. But let's see how things progress, and whether Temujin really does live up to the real-life Genghis Khan.